Hey everyone, my name is Yarrow and you're listening to the DIY Small Business Podcast. Welcome back, Happy New Year. I'm really excited to bring you a beautiful interview episode with RC Woodmass today. We talked about the digital agency called Queerit that they founded and about what it means to run a feminist, anti-capitalist business in these times in this world. And as you know, that's one of my favorite things to talk about. So yeah, I really hope you enjoy that, and I hope that you are, like me, also excited about many more episodes with business owners who do things differently this year. Two small announcements from me. On the 20th this month, I'm running a free workshop on creating a business roadmap for 2020 that I'm super excited about. A big group of people has already come together. We'll do some brainstorming. I'll share some tools and some Excel sheets that you can copy, because my Excel sheets, let me tell you, they're good. They're pastel color coordinated. I'm going to be running free workshops all year again. I did that in 2018, and then last year I kind of needed a little bit of a break, but I really feel re-energized to work with bigger groups of people again. And so yeah, stay tuned for that. Subscribe to my newsletter if you want to hear about all of them. And for now, you can sign up for the one that's coming up on the 20th through the link in my profile. There's also a few more days of enrollment for the DIY business community. It is opening quarterly now, so the next time will be April. And I've changed things a little bit. I am enrolling people with a one-on-one session with me now, so that we can really map out what you need from this program, what your next steps are, and what the year ahead looks like for you and your business. So there's 2 more spots, and they cost $300 or 3 payments of $100, which includes a year of membership in the community, including the course, monthly group coaching, monthly themed workshops, all kinds of good stuff. So you can also check that out in the link in the profile. Okay, have a really beautiful day and enjoy listening. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to start another interview on a giggle. As you know, that has become a little bit of a tradition, and I think it's working really well, at least for myself. Anyway, my friends, I'm excited to talk to RC Woodland. Oh no, I already got it. I'm so sorry. You know what? I was totally I was thinking a lot about Woodland. I'm so sorry.
That's so cute.
And I will totally leave this in the recording if that's okay for you. And I will let you introduce yourself in a second. Anyway, but they are starting a beautiful company called Queerit. And I've only got to know a little bit of their work in the last few weeks, and already feel such a sense of solidarity and excitement about what they're doing in the world. Because as you know, obviously, if you're listening to this, I'm also a tech person who's navigating the wild world of the internet in some way, trying to make a living that feels good and fun. And that's what we're here to talk about today. RC shares similar values with me around trading with other people in a really kind, transparent way. And I'm so excited to hear more about that. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm sorry that I already called you Woodland.
Thanks, Hero. Yeah, it's good to be here. I'm not against being called Woodland, actually. It's a first for me, and it makes me feel like elvish or something.
That's really, I'm so surprised that that's the first. I feel like that makes so much sense. All the best people are Woodland people.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your flexibility. I would love to start with the interview by asking you where you are in the world and what nature is like around you, because I always feel like, we're talking across time and space, and it's nice for people to get a chance to kind of visualize how this interview came to be.
Yeah, so I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Which is actually traditionally called Jojake. So it's the land of it's Ganyengeaka is the name of the land.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if this is really a thing in other parts of the world. I hope it is, but we definitely try to kind of acknowledge whose land we're on, because I'm a settler on land of Indigenous folks in this area. And so it's really important to me to try as best I can to build relationships with Indigenous people in ways that feel good for them, and, give back, maybe even give reparations, through my business, because we're on this land that's being cared for by others, and my ancestors took it violently, not my direct ancestors, but in terms of being a white settler, my ancestors did. So that's where I'm living. And the nature around, well, right now it's November, and that means we're going into winter. So there's snow on the ground right now, but it's not too cold. Usually it gets cold like in January. And there are a lot of trees. It's kind of a hilly region. If you look around the city, you can see like small mountains, like the beginning of mountain ranges, kind of from a distance. And there's no leaves on the trees, and it's all gray today. And so it feels very cozy. We were talking before we started recording about how we like winter and being cozy and being able to be inside with no pressure to go outside and have a lot of energy.
Yes. That sounds so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So we set the scene now, in a way. I would love to hear a little bit more about the work that you're doing and the background that you have with that, which is, I already know, really interesting, but the others don't know. So tell us as much as you would like to share.
Yeah, so my project's name is Queerit, and it's queer, feminist, anti-capitalist, a digital agency. And so basically, I used to be a freelancer. So I used to build websites for clients, and that was great. It helped me get out of my 9 to 5. It helped me have more flexibility in a time when I was really struggling with my mental health and dealing with a lot of past trauma. And then it became kind of lonely and unmanageable. Like, it just felt like a lot. I was having to turn down clients. I just felt really, really alone. And I was also really passionate, and still am really passionate, about social justice and trying to get kind of resources into queer and trans communities and other underrepresented communities. So I decided that I would expand my practice into an agency. So now we have almost 200 queer and trans people and other underrepresented people on our roster, who we contract on a regular basis to do work for clients that come our way. And it's still just me running the business, but hopefully in the next year or two that'll change. But I'm not alone anymore in that there are other people working on projects. We can support each other. And I'm constantly trying to raise prices in a way that's ethical, and for the reason, not the reason of necessarily making more profit, but for the reason of being able to displace more financial resources into underrepresented communities.
Yes, that is so beautiful. I was just sitting here listening, having my heart feel all warm and fuzzy inside. That was great.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't mention that we do what we actually do. So digital agency is it's hard because, I used to say web design and development, but we do so much more than that.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes to define what a project or what a business actually does in a way that's succinct, because I think especially as people that have branched out from kind of the traditional employment and are trying to leverage our own skills to, be able to live a bit of a different kind of lifestyle and maybe start something new. We do a lot. We're often multi-talented, and we don't want to limit ourselves by naming our business something that is too specific, right? So that's a struggle for me, for sure. But we do web design development, obviously. And then we also have people on the roster that do SEO, copywriting, graphic design, like workflows, like helping people with their workflow in their business, social media. Really, there's a lot of talent on the roster. So it's good to note that too.
Yeah, that's so great. And I really love the group energy of it. The way that you have set this up, I feel feels very non-competitive and warm and inviting. And I think just any experience where we work alongside each other, really supporting each other, understanding each other's strengths and differences, and just coming from a place of wanting to see each other win is so healing in itself, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely something that I wanted to get rid of, or not that it existed really ever, but that I didn't want in my business, because that's one of the negative sort of things that comes from capitalism and being an anti-capitalist business, at least trying to undermine capitalism in the business. I try to kind of really locate those ways in which capitalism can be harmful and try to mitigate those as much as possible. So for example, sometimes people think that Queerit is just a directory. So it's just a place where clients can go in and search for the people that they want to work with. But that would actually mean that folks are not necessarily matched with the right person, and they have to compete with each other to get gigs. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted, to create a real community and be able to like provide support, real support, which means that we need to be paid for that support also.
Yeah.
So, it is really a very nice group of people.
Yeah, cool. And I would also love to hear a little bit more about like what kind of things or people, organizations or ideas are you excited about working around at the moment?
I'm not sure how much I should say in terms of which clients are like, in the pipeline, like about to sign a contract. But I love it when organizations or people or whoever, when clients come to us and they come to us because of our values, because they resonate with the queer, feminist, anti-capitalist values that we have. And actually, we're very lucky because if you visit us online at our website, or you can find us on social media at Queerit Co., all one word. You can check us out, and our branding is very strong. It puts the queer, feminist, anti-capitalist thing really to the fore. And so our clients find us and want to work with us because of that, which I feel so lucky that kind of to have found this, what feels like a magic formula to find all the best people on the internet. We get all sorts of folks. We get individual sort of artists or entrepreneurs. We've done a few lawyers and journalists with their websites or their social media. We get a lot of nonprofits interested in working with us. So people that serve underrepresented communities. And so their mission is not only is to serve those communities, but then that also translates into them wanting to hire people from those communities to work on their messaging, which I think is so important. And so we get, a lot of nonprofits that work with queer folks. We did the website for the Quebec Lesbian Network, for example. So it's really fantastic. I was approaching, as I was figuring out our messaging for Queerit, I definitely had a sense of sort of scarcity. Like if I am too specific about what we do and who we serve, that it'll limit the amount of people that will want to work with us. But I definitely think that because our messaging is so strong and we actually stand for something, that that helps us be able to work with with the folks that we want to work with. And you know what, there's plenty to go around. There are plenty of folks that resonate with our message. And so I'm just glad that I was able to have the courage to put that out there, and test and see how the response would be. And the response has been just really overwhelming. But at the same time, it's not only a message, it's also a practice. So in that sense, it's not just marketing. So that helps as well.
That always helps.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. That makes so much sense. And I love your branding. And I also think it's strong. And it reminds me of like how I think about gender also as three-dimensional, like can be a lot and it can sometimes be very little. And I think that's true for branding as well. And I also really resonate with what you said about having a strong message and standing for something. I think that in the beginning, owning that and finding one's niche is really such a courageous thing, because I know for myself, I'm in my 5th year now. And the first 3 years, I was just saying yes to everything all the time. And then sometimes getting resentful or overwhelmed. And I just couldn't, I just needed a lot of time to sink into trusting that being myself on the internet and being very clear about the kind of work that I want to do is safe, and that I'll still have enough work, and that's okay. And, that some people will like it and pass it on. And I think that's the other thing as well. Like, I'm seeing so much that word of mouth is just becoming so important, or isn't just becoming this, but anyway, I left social media in the summer, and I think I was really asking myself, where are my clients actually coming from and what got me excited in my work? And it's usually recommendations, isn't it? And having a strong brand, I think, really helps people recognize and remember you. And if you have a very clear message that speaks specifically to a group of people, then they're so likely to pass your details on, and that feels really great. So
yeah, absolutely, being yourself on the internet. It's funny, I actually also personally, I left Facebook, and I had something like 3,000 friends, which in my world is quite a few, for someone that's not a celebrity,
Yeah.
But I left Facebook, and I did experience a dry spell in the business for a while, because I was using that to get gigs and to stay top of mind. And it's scary. It's so scary. But ultimately, it wasn't sustainable for me to continue to do that, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't healthy for me to be on Facebook. So if I'm not healthy, my business can't continue.
Yeah. Totally. Can you tell us a little bit more also about Lesbians Who Tech?
For sure, yeah. So disclaimer, I don't work with Lesbians Who Tech anymore, but it's a wonderful organization, and I did work with them for several years, for almost 3 years. So Lesbians Who Tech, it's a global network of queer women and genderqueer folks, and it's they put on conferences, and they also have local chapters. So if you wanted to start a local chapter of Lesbians Who Tech wherever you are, you can contact them, and they'll support you in being able to set that up. And my work with Lesbians Who Tech, I was on a really amazing team. I was a co-director with an amazing woman named Rachel Jean-Pierre. And I encourage you to look her up also. She's doing incredible work. She is an advocate for women and lesbians in tech, especially around Montreal. So she's awesome. And the rest of the team. And so we grew. At one point, we were the largest, strongest chapter in the global network, which is really amazing. And it was a way for me to be able to connect my queer identity with my work, and connect to other people who were looking to do more than just work. So they wanted to make a real difference with the work they were doing in tech. And so it's it's just a really amazing network to meet people. And whether it's Lesbians Who Tech, or if you're starting your own thing, or you just go to meetups, it was really healing, I think, to be able to connect with people who believed the same things that I did, or at least wanted to make a difference in their own way. It just helped to build up like hope and and connection in a world where it's easy to just sit behind your computer and not, meeting people in person is really lovely, and it can sometimes be scary for me, and I know for others. But I put myself out there for 3 years, and specifically with Lesbians Who Tech, and it was amazing. It's amazing to build an in-person community.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm really excited to get into that too in Scotland. I only moved here in the summer, and I had been living on and off in Brighton before that for 8 years, and I recognize now retrospectively that I was never invested enough to really build a local network beyond my close friendships there, because it was so expensive to live there. And I always knew I might not be able to stay as long as I wanted to. And now that I'm in Scotland and everything feels possible, and I'm like, yay, meetups. I might leave my bed. This is so exciting.
It is exciting.
Yes. I would love to know a little bit more also about your vision for Queerit. What do you would like to see happen in 2020, and like, what is your long-term plan?
Yes. Queerit, it's funny because a big theme in my sort of currently what I'm passionate about is capitalism and anti-capitalism. And I've struggled a lot in the last, let's say, for 3 to 4 years with wanting to make money, and not like wanting to be a billionaire, but even just wanting to make enough money to not only live, pay my rent, buy groceries, maybe take some time off, or even like go somewhere once in a while.
You wild one.
I know. And then also to save for retirement, or like, give to like people's trans crowd funds, and like give money to like people that need it, so I've really struggled because I definitely I mentioned before, I have like a scarcity mindset when it comes to resources, and it takes a lot of work to kind of undo that. So I've started to really try to have big goals for the business. And I think it helps that I'm not, when the business grows, the amount of money that we can pass on to underrepresented groups also grows. And I'm a part of those underrepresented groups. So I deserve that too, right? And so that's like my caveat. But basically, we just yesterday reached our revenue goal for 2019. Yay! Which was $30,000 Canadian. So that's not very much, but our business was, that's not very much for us. But our business was really treading water because I had a job. And so I tried to just set a really reasonable goal so that I wouldn't burn out.
Always good.
Yeah. And then our goal for 2020 is massive, because we just got a government grant to pay for my salary this year. So I'll be able to work full time on the business, which is really great, without worrying about, about depending on the business in order to pay my bills. And so our revenue goal for 2020 is $200,000 revenue.
Ooh, yeah.
I know. And that's exciting, because if we manage to hit that by the end of the year, the business will be able to pay a basic salary for me. And so that's a big part of, what our kind of shorter term goals are in the business. And also, think about, so percentage wise, I'm sharing all these numbers because I think it's helpful when business owners actually talk about numbers and the amount of money they're making.
Yes.
Because we need to normalize that sort of transparency. That's something about capitalism that, to kind of give the impression that you're like richer than you are, or to hide things, or to be afraid to say the numbers because someone might judge me, is something that I'm trying to like combat. So we give 75% of what the client pays to our collaborators or contractors on the roster. So whatever 75%, $150,000 is 75% of 200,000. And so that'll be $150,000 that we're paying out to queer and trans folks and other underrepresented folks in 2020, which is so exciting to me. It's so exciting. And we give 5% of that as reparations to various Indigenous folks and organizations in Montreal. And so whatever the 5% is, I really don't know. 10,000, is it? No, is it? I don't know. Anyway, so whatever the amount is of 5% of 200,000 is the amount that we'll be able to give in reparations. So anyway, that's like some of the income goals. In terms of business structure and operations and all of that, my goal is to be able to give work to anyone on the roster who wants to be working at any given time by the end of the year. So right now we have almost 200 people on the roster, but we don't have enough clients to actually give everyone work, which I've been very clear about to the people on the roster, but I just really wish that I could give them work. So that's another goal that I have personally. I'm also actively exploring different business structures and business models that are the kind of the most likely to, I guess, like I'm exploring how to innovate in my business structure. To get as far from capitalism as I can.
Yeah.
And that's scary because I like being in charge. I like being in control. And a lot of what capitalism does is it puts one person or like one small group of people in control of, everything for everyone else, right? And like the 1% versus the 99%, or the, bourgeoisie versus the proletariat, or like the worker, and so it's scary for me. It is. We all kind of have, I'm going to say we all, I think most folks in this day and age that are probably listening to this podcast we've internalized certain elements of capitalism because it's all we've ever known. And perfectionism and wanting to be in control is one way that I've been able to survive so far in capitalism, but it's time for me to start trying to kind of unravel that and undo that, and place more faith and more trust in the collective, in the communities that I'm working with. And trust that there will be enough for me. Trust that I will be cared for. And so, yeah, subverting capitalism is not for the weak. It really No, but I really want to. It's like maybe I need like therapy. I mean, I'm in therapy, but like business therapy or so capitalism therapy or something, because it's really, I think that'll be a lot of the work that I do on kind of a personal level in my business this year.
Yes to all of this. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to circle back on a few things. First of all, I love that you shared some of your numbers, and I totally agree that that's really important. We need to unshame that, and we also need to just kind of talk about it so that people get a chance to educate themselves from different angles, because I think when I speak to people and support them around their pricing, there's so much to untangle. I always find that actually we don't need to learn new stuff. We just need to unlearn the old stuff. And we need practical examples of how this can work. And we need to remember that there's just so much more that goes into an hourly rate, for example, than what you think you should make an hour compared to someone who's in employment. I think that's such a big stumbling block, isn't it? And then The other piece I wanted to circle back to is it is so scary. I really feel that too, and I would, for example, really love to work in a collective in theory, but when I've been confronted in my life with opportunities to really organize my work in a collective of other people, I've always felt some hesitation and some fear coming up. And sometimes it's been beautiful. And, I really do love collaborating with people, and I intend to do more and more of that work, because it is so expensive to challenge and unlearn those things. And I also know that I'm really not there yet to place the responsibility rather for my livelihood into the care of a group, and to trust that dynamic, because it is so complex and we all have so little experience really with other modules. But I'm just also really excited to see more and more people reaching for it and talking about it. So that's great.
Yeah, that's so real. It's all the things that I really think that the personal isn't just personal. Obviously the personal is political and all of that. We know that phrase, but I think that business, even just the concept of a business being separate from community, or somehow outside of community, I think is a fallacy. For example, in the Me Too era, quote unquote, hashtag Me Too, it's interesting to see how companies are dealing with things that are, in the end, even if they happened at work, they're very, very personal to the people involved. And I'm really interested in exploring that as well, and how sort of a transformative, restorative justice process might be applied to dealing with the personal in a business context, right? Because everyone has done harm, right? Everyone has done things that make them untrustworthy, right? Or they could be perceived to be untrustworthy. And I'm a survivor of sexual assault and trauma, and so coming from that, and I'm sure I've done harm to others as well, and I explore that, and I have my own ways of kind of seeking accountability and making amends and all of that. But it's in a business setting, what happens when that comes up? Do we just fire the person and make someone else deal with the problem? Is isolation of this of a perpetrator of harm really the way to go? And anyway, it's a really interesting thing that I'm thinking about, because I'm writing my employee handbook, and there's been I know that some people on the roster have done harm to others, because we all have, but I know sort of specific examples. And how do I protect, as a business owner, how do I protect victims of this, or enable victims of people that have caused harm to feel safe, without completely cutting the perpetrators of harm off from their community, which with queer and trans people, community is so important, And so Queerit can do more, and your business too, like anybody who has a business can set examples for the larger corporations, for how to deal with issues of capitalism, issues of harm, like really big economic and social issues. And we can set an example. And I'm just so inspired by small business owners and their capability to actually test out these things and set examples for larger companies. I really think that's the future.
Yes, me too. Thank you for being brave and touching on that complexity. I am very excited to see that unfolding too. And I also don't have any answers, but I think it's so important to ask the questions and keep at it. So well done. That's great.
Yeah, sitting in discomfort. It's very difficult sometimes.
Yes, it is. And talking about discomfort, what is your relationship to social media like at the moment? Or how are you kind of getting people excited or bringing contracts in?
Yeah, Well, it's funny. I have a real love-hate relationship with social media personally. And right now I manage our social media account for Queerit. And I'm always like, oh, Facebook is terrible. I should just like delete us off of Facebook. But right now, my kind of approach to social media is that if people are there that want to work with us, the work that we're doing, and the connection that is made on social media, for us right now is more important than kind of being, I don't know, than leaving the social media because it doesn't match up with our principles. So I've decided to prioritize that connection that happens on social media, but I also know that, like, I know that Yarrow, you're not on social media, and I also think that that's a completely valid and like effective way of dealing with what's going on in the big kind of social media corporations right now. But yeah, I mean, I use Recur Post, a tool that helps me build up a library of posts, so I don't have to write new stuff all the time. And it schedules things out. So it's called Recur Post. And so I spend maybe an hour or two loading up kind of like the Recur Post feed in advance, and then just make sure that I usually go in about once a day to engage with folks that have commented or liked or messaged me or whatever. It takes a lot of time. Like, social media is not cheap. It's free, but it's not cheap,
That is such a good point. I always hear people say, but it's free marketing. And I'm like, my friend, it does cost you a lot of time and energy. That might not be true. And like, I love that you pour so much, or really make the connection a priority, because I think that's just the most meaningful way of being with what is, right? I think people are there, they're looking for each other. And if you have the bandwidth to really be present and be intentional with how you spend your time, then that's so beautiful. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's totally valid. Yeah, there have been times, I mean, I'm a human being, I'm not I'm not always consistent. Sometimes I won't fill up my Recur Post with my posts, and then there's no posts for a while. But you know what? That's okay. Like, it has to be okay. Because if I don't know, I'm more and more just really about transparency in my business. And if you see, I don't want people to think that I am one person, that I'm actually a team of 10 people that's keeping up this absolutely perfect, profile on social media, like, I do everything. I do the sales, I hire people, I interview people, I make connections, I do the social media. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's okay if an Instagram post doesn't go out. If I do something, it's positive. If I don't do something, it's completely neutral.
Yes, I love that approach. I hope people can really hear that and take that in. Yes. Is there anything else you would like to share before we go?
Oh my goodness. Anything else that I want to share? I do want to share that I think for your listeners, for anyone listening to this right now, that whatever you're doing is enough. And, that if we self-criticize so much. I know I do. I really criticize myself. And the more I'm in business, the more I realize that, so my self-criticism often manifests in the form of procrastination. And I'm like, I can't do this, or it's been so long. If I respond to this email, they'll realize how long it's been, and and I'm a failure and all of this. But that's just in my head, and I actually am starting to truly internalize that it's okay. Like, it's okay to not be perfect.
Yes.
And it's okay to be only one person. You don't have to be a super person. You can just be you. And transparency and communication with clients or with whoever, sooner rather than later, to say, oh, I'm going through something with my mental health, I won't be able to respond to this for a month, is better than just sitting with it and avoiding it and thinking about it every day anyway.
Yes.
and it happens, and that's okay. Like, it's really okay to not be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know so many people listening will really appreciate hearing that. So thank you so much. Mm-hmm. I also would love to hear where people can find you and how they can work with you.
Absolutely. So our website is queerit.co. So not com, but queerit.co. Mm-hmm. From there, you can find, of course, links to social media and all of that. On social media, if you just search Queerit, you'll find us. And our handle everywhere is queeritco. And on our website, you'll find all sorts of lovely things, including a more extensive land acknowledgement. And you can find some basic pricing. You can find some profiles of the people that we're working with right now. You can find our values, and you can click on any of the buttons on our website, and it'll bring you to be able to book a call with me. And so that I would love to speak to you. And if you are someone that's looking for more contracts to do as a freelance anything, a freelance web developer, designer, WordPress space, social media, we're always looking for really good folks that are underrepresented in some way. And so if you go to our website, you will also find links to start the application process to join our roster. And you can be anywhere in the world if you'd like to join us. That's no problem. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We're especially active on Instagram. So if you go on Instagram, that's a really good place to find us.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much for your time and everything that you shared, for the work that you're doing, and for the wisdom. I'm really excited to share this and really appreciate talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yarrow, thank you for having me and for your work and your beautiful energy and spirit.
Thank you.